Have you ever felt it? You know that change in the air? That quiet shift in a room you thought was safe? It's never loud, it's never obvious. It's just a whisper, the first whisper. Today we're going to talk about something called smear seeding, a way of destroying a reputation that happens entirely in silence, often before you even know you're in a fight. Let's pull back the curtain and see how it works.
So picture this. You walk into a room, a meeting, a party with friends, whatever. A place you've always felt you belong. But today, something's off. You can just feel it. The eye contact is a little hesitant. There's a tiny pause before you're included in the conversation, if you get included at all. It's this sudden, weird shift in the social weather. And you're just racking your brain, right? What did I do? What did I say? But you come up with nothing. This is that gut feeling, that paradox we're going to unpack. It's the moment you realize a story has been told about you, and you weren't even there to speak.
So, how do we get a handle on this invisible attack? Well, here's our roadmap for today. We're going to start with that unseen social shift, then we'll pull off the mask of concern to see what's underneath. We'll look at how your own confusion gets weaponized in something called the harvest. Then we'll dig into why someone would even do this before, and this is the important part, we learn how to break the cycle and take back your own story. Ready? Let's get into it. All right, first up, let's talk about the experience itself. This part is all about that confusing, really disorienting feeling when your reality just doesn't line up with what everyone else seems to think. It's that paradox of being judged for something that literally never happened.
The key thing to get here is that there was no big public event, right? There was no argument, no obvious mistake you made, no dramatic blow-up. Your reputation is being quietly altered behind the scenes, and it leaves you feeling like the ground is just gone from under you. And that's exactly why it's so damaging. You can deal with a public fight, you can apologize for a mistake, but how in the world do you defend yourself against a feeling, against whispers you can't even hear? You're basically fighting a ghost.
So how does this thing actually get built? Well, this whole phenomenon, it has a name, and just by naming it, we can start to take away its power. This isn't just you being unlucky or people being weird, it's a very specific and very calculated strategy. The technical term for it is preemptive narrative control. I mean, just think about what those words mean. It's about controlling the story about you before you even get a chance to open your mouth. It's a system. This is not random gossip. And you see it most in these high-stakes places where your reputation is basically your currency. You know, boardrooms, competitive project teams, even in those super tight-knit friend groups where your social standing means everything. It's a quiet, strategic takedown of your social credit. And this, right here, this is the most brilliant and insidious part of the whole thing. The person who's engineering this campaign, it's not some obvious enemy. Oh no, it's often the person who pulls you aside, puts a hand on your shoulder, and tells you how worried they are about you. They play the role of the concerned confidant. This mask of care is the perfect camouflage. It lets them plant these little seeds of doubt without ever looking like the bad guy. It makes their whispers sound credible, and it makes their intentions seem noble. It's a devastatingly effective disguise. Okay, so we've covered the what. Now let's get into the how. In this part, we're going to pull the curtain all the way back and look at the actual playbook. This is the step-by-step process for how a reputation is quietly and methodically dismantled. This whole operation unfolds in 3 distinct stages. First, you have the seed placement. That's the initial whisper. Second, you get the social chill, which is when the whole vibe around you starts to change. And finally, the harvest. This is the truly cruel final step where your own reaction becomes the proof that they were right all along. Let's break each of those down. Okay, step 1, the seed placement. So, the manipulator doesn't go to the group and say, "I think Jane is incompetent." That's way too direct, right? People can push back on that. No, instead, they go to someone influential and they say something like, "Hey, I'm a little worried about Jane. She just seems so stressed lately, you know? A little scattered. I really hope she's okay." You see the difference? By framing it as concern, they totally bypass the listener's critical thinking. The person hearing it doesn't feel like they're gossiping, they feel like they're being trusted with a compassionate secret. And just like that, the seed of doubt is planted. And that brings us to step 2, the social chill. Once those little seeds of doubt start to grow, people's behavior starts to change. And a lot of the time, they don't even realize they're doing it. You feel it as this invisible friction. Maybe you're left off an important email, or your ideas are suddenly met with this weird, polite pity. It's all super subtle. You can feel it, but you can't prove it. And if you ask, "Hey, is something wrong?" they'll probably say, "No, of course not. Why do you ask?" And that just makes you feel paranoid, pushing you further away. This is where the control really starts to tighten.
And that leads to the final, masterful move, the harvest. So as you're feeling this social chill, what's your natural human reaction going to be? Well, you get confused, you get frustrated, maybe you get a little defensive, or you start questioning things more openly. And right on cue, the manipulator points to your behavior and says, "See? Just like I said. Look how defensive and confused they're being. I knew I was right to be worried." They literally created the situation that caused your reaction, and then they used your reaction as proof that their original concern was valid. It's a perfect trap, and you're stuck right in the middle.
But why? I mean, why would anyone go to all this trouble? This isn't just about being mean. There's a really deep psychological reason driving not just the manipulator, but also the group that goes along with it. Let's dig into that.
So the core motive for the manipulator is something called defensive impunity. The easiest way to think about it is like a social insurance policy. They are getting ahead of you by discrediting you preemptively. And why would they do that? Because deep down, they're afraid of you. They know you're smart enough to maybe one day expose their own incompetence or their dishonesty, so they neutralize you first. By painting you as unstable or unreliable now, they make sure that if you ever try to call them out later, nobody's going to believe you. You've already been labeled an unreliable witness.
This slide really lays out the two sides of that psychological coin. On one hand, you've got the manipulator's defensive impunity, which is all driven by fear and status. But for this to work, it has to prey on the group's vulnerability, our fundamental human need to belong, to have in-group alignment. When the manipulator shares their confidential worry, it creates this little secret bond, and people start to value that bond more than they value just checking the facts with you directly. They become part of it, not because they're bad people, but because they want to feel included, and the manipulator is an expert at exploiting that.
Okay, we've taken apart the trap, we get the mechanics, we get the motivation. Now, let's talk about how to get out of it. This section is all about empowerment. It's about shifting from defense to offense and taking back control of your own damn story.
So here's the big question, right? If this whole attack is built on whispers and silence and things you can't prove, how can you possibly fight it? You can't fight a shadow with another shadow. The answer is actually pretty simple, but that doesn't mean it's easy. You fight the darkness by turning on the lights.
Here is your 3-step game plan. First, you have to recognize the information bottleneck, that one person who's controlling the story. Second, you practice something called transparency aggression by dragging private whispers out into the open. And third, you use direct channel verification to get your facts straight from the source, cutting out any middlemen. This isn't about getting angry, it's about being strategically clear.
Let's really focus on your most powerful tool here, transparency aggression. This means you aggressively, relentlessly pursue transparency. The second you hear about a concern, let's say a friend tells you, "Hey, Mark mentioned he was worried about your project," your first instinct is probably to hide or get mad. Don't. Instead, you go straight to Mark, but you keep it cool and neutral. You say, "Hey Mark, Sarah mentioned you had some concerns about my project. I'd love to hear them. I really value your feedback." Boom. That one move does two incredible things. It drags the private whisperer into the public light, which stops the seeding in its tracks, and it makes you look confident and open, not defensive or paranoid. You're bypassing the whole game and taking back control.
So after all of this, what's the one thing you should walk away with? This last part is about the ultimate takeaway, the core idea that will not only protect you from smear seeding, but will empower you to completely own your reputation.
Look, smear seeding is that first whisper that can ruin a reputation before you even know it's happening. The whole pattern works through that fake mask of concern, and it feeds on your totally justified frustration. But awareness breaks the whole cycle. So the single biggest lesson is this: your reputation is yours to speak. The second you let someone else become the manager of your story, you've already lost. Everything we've talked about, from transparency to direct verification, is about one thing: cutting out the middleman. You have to be your own loudest, clearest witness.
And that's the thought I really want to leave you with. The power of a smear campaign lives in silence, in whispers, and things left unsaid. So your power has to live in clarity and directness. Whispers only work in the dark. The moment you drag them into the light, they just disappear. Your truth isn't just a thing you have, it's a thing you have to be willing to speak, actively and directly. That is how you reclaim your story, and that is how you make sure the only person telling it is you.